everyone. My name is Kathleen Celmins. I am the well-paid expert, and one of the things that I love the most about the internet is that it connects me to all kinds of amazing people. And today I am talking to one of them. This is Terra Fletcher. Right? That's your last name? Okay. See? And Terra is so smart, and we're going to talk about lots of different things with digital marketing, so stick around because this is going to be more of a casual conversation where we are chatting with each other, and hopefully if you listen to the whole thing, you will get some value out of it. So welcome, Terra.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here too. It would be nice if we were together physically, but geographically, that would be a bit of a challenge for us right now. Although I really hope I can come and visit like spring break, maybe that'd
Anytime.
be a good
Yep.
time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fantastic.
Spring break
Because
is
I'm
a
up here in
great time to
Wisconsin.
visit.
Yes. And you're in Arizona, so
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of a difference. Anyway, so I'm Terra Fletcher, and my focus is on marketing. My premise in marketing is to be flexible in order to break down some of the ideas that we had previously that we thought might work for us. So I'm really excited to talk with Kathleen today because the quiz concept that she has is something that really excites me, and I want to learn more about how we can leverage that. And I love exploring new technology and tools and seeing what we can do to simplify. I'm also excited to talk today about how quizzes can help us to fill our email list. That's something that I know for myself is something I need to work on, and I know a lot of the people who I work with want to work on that.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking to somebody in a mastermind call earlier today about how nobody really needs a quiz. Nobody even really needs an email sequence or an email list. What we need are more customers and more revenue. And both a quiz and an email list will get us there, I think, easier and faster than a lot of other also good tactics.
Yes, absolutely. And because of sometimes the volume of people that we're dealing with, it's just more of an efficient way to vet potential customers to make sure we have the right people who are receiving our content. But it also allows us to specialize our content to different groups of people, which marketers are realizing people have divided attention. They're getting 3,000 potential marketing messages in a day. So how do they know if this one is really for them? And that's what these quizzes and email lists can help us with too.
Mm-hmm. And quizzes are great for segmentation, even for people who, when they hear about email segmentation, they go, like that's a bridge too far, right? Emails sound fine, but if we're talking about automation and segmentation and tagging and all that like techie stuff, I don't want to do it. But quizzes are a great way to like dip your toes in it because it doesn't have to be as complicated as we like to make things.
And I think it's because no one likes to be put in a box, right? Don't box me in. And I hear that all the time because in the trainings that I do, I talk about communicating across generations and genders and cultures, and nobody wants to be put in that box. So my favorite way to illustrate that is beyond those obvious demographic profiles are looking at the psychographic profiles, which is harder to measure. You can't just grab that based on someone's those boxes we just talked about. You can't just grab a psychographic based on someone's generation, gender, or culture. You cannot do it. You need what I call the orange sports car. So let me tell you what I mean by that. I got to work with a fantastic organization. It's actually just down the road from me here, the National Association of Tax Professionals. Okay, so they called me to help simplify tax textbooks. Are you kidding me? This is for real. They hired me to come in and help them to communicate more effectively with people who are not accounting professionals. Because as you can imagine, tax law changes regularly. It's something a little bit different every year, and they speak and write in a different language than the rest of us do, right? When you think about an accountant, you think about a certain type of person. So when I called the NATP, I said, okay, tell me about your audience. I need to make sure that I customize my material for them. And she says, all right, Terra, we have got them all. We've got younger, we've got older, we've got men, we've got women, we've got people of all generations, genders, cultures. Covers all those bases. But when I pulled up to the NATP right down the road here in Greenville, You know what I saw in their parking lot? They all drove the same car. Yeah, for real, because there's a psychographic that dictates who these people are beyond the demographic profile. They're driving 7-year-old imports that get great gas mileage, have 4 doors because you're also going to get a better insurance rate. There's a type of car, but there's always that one orange sports car. And there was one. There's always one. So yes, there are outliers. Even when we talk about psychographic profiles, there are outliers. But what I love about the concept of quizzes is it's kind of a shorthand for finding that commonality that is harder to put down on paper.
It's also, I love thinking about it like that because it's also self-selecting, right? I don't want you to tell me that I'm a suburban Phoenix mom who goes to yoga. I happen to be, but I don't want to be told that. But if you gave me a quiz that said like what sort of exercise would you like next, then I can tell you what I where I live and what I do and what I like, and then you can tell me that I should find another yoga studio or something like that. Like
Yeah.
that the idea of like segmentation by me, because I don't like I know my accountant. I don't know a lot of accountants. They're really smart and their brains are totally different than mine. But I wouldn't want to go to them and say, but you drive a 5-year-old Mercedes. Because like if they that feels creepy. I think some of marketing can be creepy, the like just in time stuff. Like, I know you were looking at the Quaker Oats, like, why do you know that? Like, why did you sell it like that? Like, but you can when it's something that's like, if you've got a brand that, and I see this a lot with e-commerce brands where like a perfume company, for example, a Noteworthy has all of their scents are just numbered, and they say, we're going to find you your signature scent. We're going to, based on this quiz, we're going to give you 4 options. And you tell them like you like to wear citrusy things, and then then it's like your style. So instead of a bald face, like, which of my 6 products should you buy first, it's what does your scent tell you, like, how can you learn more about yourself through your preferences.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So give us some more examples of quizzes. Tell us some others that you've seen or used or come across.
Yeah, so I make quizzes for people. I teach people how to make quizzes, and I have a toolkit for them to do it themselves. So we run the whole gamut for quiz creation. And it all started when it was 2018, I think. And a client came to me and said, I need help with marketing things. And boy, is that fun. Like, that's such a blank check, right? Cool. Yeah, let's do it. They were doing really well with organic SEO. And so I stayed away from all that. And what I ended up doing was I saw that this client had their main offer was a consulting call. And not everybody was qualified for this consulting call. And so we built a quiz to help people self-select whether they needed the consulting call because maybe they thought they did, or if they needed some DIY help. Those DIY pieces happened to be affiliate links. So the quiz ended up being, which of my affiliate links should you click on first? But it was way more helpful than that. And from the business side, that's what it was. But people were thanking the client for creating something like this because it gave them clarity on their next move. And it made the client $60,000 in new affiliate revenue in the first 2 months it was deployed. So you can do something helpful and make more money, which is kind of the goal, right? With all of
Right?
marketing.
Right. Yeah, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that experience. Very cool. Okay, so let's talk about quizzes as they relate then to sales funnels.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if you think of a typical sales funnel, you have so let's define a sales funnel. So you've got a lead magnet with an email sequence to a sales page that then has multiple other options for buying more down the line. That's that's the quick version of what a sales funnel is. And so often you spend a lot of time and energy copywriting all of that. One of the cool things about a quiz is that it helps bring somebody through that customer journey without all that copywriting. Because the copywriting landing on the landing page for a quiz is, what's your X personality? Take this quiz and find out, which you don't really have to hire out. Like, that's 10 words of copy. You can do it yourself. And like there are ways to get people to start that quiz, so you don't say click the button to start the quiz. You start it on question 1. I tested this with a client, and like it increased the completion of the quiz by like 40% or something, because people were they're
brilliant.
so intrigued by
Yeah.
question 1 that, and there's a button, and so there's no decision. It's like we're already in it because you've read that 10 lines or 10 words of copy, and then you're in that, like the first question already, and you're like, well, I have an opinion. I like green more than I like blue. All right, here I am.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. And I think that's really good for areas in which your product or service has scary words, right? Whether it's a large investment or it's something about it, it requires a big commitment, or they think it's going to require a big commitment that breaks down that initial to get them to take that first step. What a cool idea. Thank you.
Yeah. And so then so a lot of times what a quiz does is it takes somebody from not even problem aware to the most aware. So what is one of my clients, we worked together to make a quiz about their brand personality. Because the thing that this client was struggling with was having to educate their clients on the need for branding and design in the first place. So how many times does this brand designer have to say it's not just fonts and colors before they want to like bang their head against the wall? So instead it was, what's your brand personality? And so one of the cool things about that is that also grew the client's email list by 5,000 subscribers, and 30% of those people booked discovery calls. She had to turn off ads early on because her calendar, she's like, I'm never going to get any work done if I do all these discovery calls. And one of the what was cool about that was those people came to the discovery call already more educated than they would have had they read 50,000 words that she'd written, because they understood it and internalized it, which didn't just set the stage for a good sales call, but made the entire engagement, much more smooth, because they learned, and they were speaking the same language, and they learned the importance of the aesthetic and how it does matter. It is not just rounded or serifed fonts. Like it's much deeper than that. And then she was able to position what felt like a luxury indulgence when they weren't problem aware as a necessary piece of their business building in 2 minutes. It's amazing.
That is so cool. Okay, so what I'm thinking about right now as you're talking is how many of us have to do that education piece. I think for the businesses that are especially the leading edge, the cutting edge, if you're doing something fresh and new, you find yourself every time in that cycle of I have to educate people and tell people what that is. So, and I'm seeing that right now even for myself. I have been a marketing consultant since 2007. I've been doing this for a minute, right? But now I've kind of shifted my focus and positioning myself as a fractional CMO. And people are going, what the heck is a fractional CMO? So I'm doing that same thing again that I did, 15, 16 years ago when I was explaining to people what SEO is and what website content is and what a content writer is. Like now it's like that same stuff is just coming up again. So I can see how especially people who are eager to grow, who are making a big shift and who need to educate people could really use these kind of quizzes to help shorthand that. So what a neat
Right.
concept.
Well, so for you, like nobody needs a fractional CMO, just like nobody needs marketing, right? They don't want that. They don't want that. They want what a CMO can give them, what marketing can give them. And when we position it, and I as a marketer myself, who's been doing it just about as long as you have, um, it can be really challenging to articulate it in a way that's not just like, if you if you do marketing right, you'll make more money. Because that can be true for HR and operations and executive leadership. If you do it all right, you make more money. But like also if you do marketing right, you make more money.
Mhm. Yeah, it's more results oriented and results focused, but also presenting it again in a language that resonates with them because they're self-selecting. And none of us want to be sold. And I think that's another thing too. We have more and more sophisticated customers than we ever had before. Nobody walks in not knowing what the company they're visiting does. We don't do that. We don't just say, "Oh, I'm curious," and walk in. We don't do that anymore. We look up everything first. We want to know, who are we seeing? What do they offer? We probably already know what we're going to buy going in. So what a great opportunity for us to educate people that way.
Yeah, it'd be neat because if you're working with startups or like it'd be neat if you're working with like a funded startup. Like, okay, so you have this seed money. What is the best use of it for you? Because
Love
not
it.
necessarily, it's not always going to be, it's sort of like the progressive thing, right? Like progressive's not always going to be the cheapest for you, but you should call them and find out, right? That's dating myself, I realize, but that's what they used to do. um but like, if you've got this, like, what are your goals? Maybe you do just need to throw it all into PPC. Or you can do content marketing. Like there's lots of different ways you can spend that money, and like just doing, like helping somebody figure that out positions you as an authoritative consultant in the first place. Be
Right.
a really fun one to make too.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'm thinking about too, it might seem early to us that because it's only September, but a lot of organizations are planning their budget for the next year. And that would be
Mhm.
a nice way to do it for, not just for folks like us, but a lot of people. It's decisions are made, buying decisions are made when budgets are made. That stuff has to be decided oftentimes well in advance. So there's an opportunity. You mentioned, getting seed money. This could be another opportunity when people are going through that budget planning, or whether their fiscal year coincides with calendar year or not, whenever that time comes up,
Mhm.
that would be a good time to evaluate, how do you spend your money this year? Or it could be this quarter, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. And you can do like more bottom of funnel assessments and stuff like that. Not everybody's going to take that one, but the ones that do take those assessments like that are closer to a buying decision. So you just have to, when you're setting up a quiz, you have to define success.
Mhm.
And if it's a ton of subscribers, don't do that one. Like make that your next one.
That's a really good point too, because what I have seen with the variety of organizations that I work with is a lot of them are really good at creating that top of the funnel content, but they struggle with the content as they're getting closer to that bottom of the funnel, closer to the buying, closer to the decision-making process. And what I struggle with is sometimes because as a fractional being outside the organization, it's maybe because I don't know it well enough, because I don't know what the salespeople know. I don't know perhaps the deeper information that they would have. So, what a great way to help those sales folks too to communicate with marketers going through that process to help them define what exactly the language needs to be to get them to that point. Which also makes me think about, I wanted to talk about you too, with you today too, is having a strong call to action, because I see all the time people skip that step. They're not asking the question. They're not doing the next thing.
Why do you think they aren't? Do you think it's fear?
Okay, I've got some theories on this, and I don't know if they've all been proven. I think part of it is we don't want to be pushy. I think part of it is we want to assume that they know what to do. Oh, there's already the call me button on my website at the top, so I don't need to put it here, or but Also, people are busy and people are distracted, and it has to be easy. So, one thing that I would recommend to people is to be stronger in your call to action. Um, I'm trying to think of why else we struggle with that. Well, maybe too because our maybe it's our folks who are designing aren't marketers.
They have a
That could be
button
part
and
of
it just
it.
says click here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a big part of it. It's and people maybe that's it. Maybe people make an assumption that I hired this great developer, they're going to provide me with the content I need. Well, that's not usually part of the package.
I mean, if it is, great. But yeah, you're right. It's not. What have you seen in terms of like from top of funnel content? What are some of the better calls to action?
Okay, top of the funnel content with calls to action. So I think in that part of the process, depending on who you're working with, and I do a lot of B2B, I do a lot of longer sales cycles. So at top of the funnel, the call to action is oftentimes you are trying to collect those email addresses. You are trying to continue the conversation. On social media, it might be as simple as asking for subscribers, asking people to engage with it as well, because we know if they engage, if they click like or they comment or they do something, the algorithms and the feeds are going to continue to give them our content, which is what we need, which is why all our social media influencers are so good at saying that. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, share with a friend, because that's their top of the funnel. Once you do that and get engaged, then further along, that's where they're going to start doing some of their actual selling to you.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And so let me ask you this. Do you find that people are better at including calls to action in written content? And like the people that don't script out their videos have a hard time with being like, and if you liked that, I have another one, maybe, or
Ooh,
whatever.
that's a good point. I think our more natural, enthusiastic performers, especially in the atmosphere, the realm that we're talking about, who are putting themselves off out there, are going to tend to be more off the cuff. So they might not have things scripted. They might not have thought through that process. So they might neglect to do that. I know a lot of my stuff that I do, I just record and throw it up there. And I don't always think of it either myself. I don't think of it, and I do marketing every day. So I think it's just not enough planning. It's just not enough planning to remember to do that step.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's like, look, I got to do a video, I got to get it out there? Would you say like, how, like, because when I come up with an idea, I have a topic and like some sort of tiny rant, and then I hope that I'm just gonna do okay with that. What kind of advice would you give to someone like me for that kind of thing?
Good question. So what I have right now, I'm showing you my hand. This is me showing you my hand. I have a teleprompter on my Zoom, and I have 6 bullet points right in front of me right now that I can see. I can see you through them, so they're not. They're right there. They're present. They're not distracting. I'm not fumbling through my notes. And that prompter app was well worth it because it makes it so clean and easy. I used to take a piece of paper and like
Try to
stick
put
it
the
up there.
post-it like right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, just a handful of bullet points is fine. 3 to 5 things is probably more than enough. That's close to what we have for our conversation that we're hoping to have today. And then I would say, put it on there, put it right at the bottom at the end, your call to action, and just make it one specific thing. Think about where you are in that funnel. What is your objective for that day? If you're looking for awareness, again, that's going to be that follow, that like, that subscribe. If it's further down the funnel, maybe if it's mid-range, maybe you're looking to sell an introductory small product. Maybe in my case, that'd be something like a book. If you're further down, maybe you want them to consider you for a long-term marketing partnership. That would be an entirely different thing, but the call to action in that case might be to schedule a phone call to have that initial conversation.
That is such good advice. And when you're doing it on video, this is where I get tripped up. Video trips me up, except for conversations like this. Video trips me up in ways I wish I could unpack and understand, because then I could get over it. But I get tripped up by like where the button is. So that I'm like, well, click um somewhere and take my quiz or whatever. Like
Yeah, that's just a minor detail because you can all do all of those things in post, right? You can put an
Mm.
arrow, you can make things pop up, you can do all that stuff. So that's nice too. If you do have, if you're doing videos, if you do have some space around your head, which both of us kind of do, you can fill that. I could even, block my typewriter or whatever, or fill that space and put it in there in post. So don't stress about where the buttons are. And I've seen that. I've seen videos where they're pointing in the wrong direction, and that's almost more distracting. So leave it out. I just recorded a video, so I'm going to be speaking at FRAC 2023 next month. I just recorded a video teaser about that. And I said, stay tuned to the end because I have a special offer for you. And I just leave it at that. And I'm going to pop up a screen later because I don't actually have the code yet. I'm hoping to get a discount code for people who sign up directly through me. And I don't have it yet. So I'm going to do that in post where I'll just make a slide that says, here's the code, put that in when you register.
That is such a good tip. It's like blowing my mind at how good that is. That is so simple and relatively obvious. But it honestly, I have probably 5 hours of videos I can't use because I got awkward at the end. Like,
Just trim them and put it in post. But isn't that true though, Kathleen? The best advice is always simple. What are we talking about today? Some of the biggest things we're talking about today are simple content, simple questions, strong calls to action. These are all very simple concepts. And we have that curse of knowledge where we know so much about what we're doing. We tend to bloat with our content. We want to tell everyone everything we know, and it's so not necessary. Start with your objective, know where you are in your funnel, and present the information they need right now, and keep it to that.
that's so good. That's so good. And I would add to that the most profound things are only obvious after you internalize them.
Yes,
Because
thank
it
you.
does sound, I mean, it isn't simple to people who don't know it. It's just and it's not even the obvious isn't obvious until you've internalized it. And
Yeah.
so I think like the older I get, the more hours I put in, the more I realize how our brains like to make things really complicated and that the truth is just not as hard as we want it to be.
Yes. And I, as a teacher, that's something that's important to me too, because they say if you cannot teach it simply, it's because you don't know it well enough.
Mhm.
So if we're not there yet, I guess that would be something that could be a takeaway for our viewers too. If you're struggling, that could be that you need to educate yourself more on that specific area. And then you're going to have that moment where you're like, oh, there it is. It's so simple. Now I get it.
Mhm. You see that in the sales process too. Like the more you talk as a salesperson, the less the more obvious it is that you're not sure of the claims you're making and the lower your conversion rates are. Like the person who talks the least in a sales call is the one that gets more sales. Um Another thing that
Yeah.
sounds counterintuitive and hard but is easy and obvious once you get there.
Right. Right. Because who are you trying to prove it to? To yourself or to
Mhm.
them? So
Yeah.
maybe that's a good point too for
That's a
us.
great
To,
that's a great point to leave on, actually. Like, this was such a good conversation, we should do it again.
thank you. Thank you. This was a blast. Thanks for having me, Kathleen. I really look
Thank
forward to our
you.
next chat.
You too, and then let's end with the call to action. Where can people find more about you?
So I guess my first thing would go to subscribe on my YouTube channel. That's where you're going to get all my content, and take a look at my playlist because you're going to find one that's just right for you.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm at thewellpaidexpert.com. So I will see you guys over there. Thanks so much.